All right, let's dive deep into the Dallas Cowboys' current roster landscape because let's be honest, there are still some unresolved issues that could define this team season. ESPN's latest report, particularly from Todd Archer, took a close look at three lingering positional questions: nickel cornerback, defensive tackle, especially that run-stuffing nose, and the ever-crucial backup offensive tackle. Now, while these areas might not be the flashy headlines that dominate offseason hype, they could be the make-or-break spots once the real games kick off. And hidden within that report were some pretty telling details, some of which may have even slipped under the radar. Let's start with that nickel cornerback situation, which, let's face it, is still very much a gray area. With Jordan Lewis no longer part of the picture, Dallas is left looking for answers, and it doesn't seem like they've found one just yet. They reportedly wanted to bring Lewis back, but the deal just ended up being too expensive. That's business. But now they've got to make a decision with what's left, and the names floating around the facility don't exactly scream certainty. Darren Bland is the guy who pops first, and for good reason. He's the most experienced of the group, especially when it comes to that nickel role. Back in the 2022 season, when Lewis went down, Bland stepped in and filled that slot role admirably. Then he moved to the outside in 2023 and absolutely exploded. We're talking about a breakout season. But here's the catch. In 2024, he only managed to appear in 7 games. Injuries have clearly taken their toll. So what happens now? There's a world where Bland gets pushed back inside to handle nickel duties. And that could be either a best case or worst case scenario, depending on how you spin it. Best case, everyone else stays healthy and Bland becomes your inside technician while your boundary corners handle their business. Worst case, nobody else steps up and you're forced to pull Bland back inside because you simply have no other choice. Now, here's where it gets even murkier. The other names mentioned, Kyer Elam, Kalen Barnes, and rookie Savion Riley, all have one thing in common. None of them are natural nickel guys. Elam was an outside corner at Florida and remained one in Buffalo. He's talented, no doubt, and he's probably in the running to start on the outside early in the season, especially if injuries are still in play. Kalen Barnes? Also an outside guy. He struggled mightily against the run last season, especially with a shoulder issue that clearly limited him. That's a red flag for a nickel corner. You need someone who can be physical, who can hold up against the run game, not just track slot receivers. And then there's Riley, the rookie who, long-term, might be the most intriguing of the group. But again, he played outside at ECU, and he's coming off an injury. Expecting him to make a seamless transition inside in year one is a tough ask. Nickel is a different world. You got to be quick, instinctive, twitchy, some would say even quicker than fast. It's a specialized skill set, and these long-limbed outside corners don't always translate well in there. So what does that leave us with? It leaves us with a potential hole, and Todd Archer subtly hinted at the possibility that the Cowboys might need to look outside the building. He posed the question, if it's not Bland, then who? And if the answer isn't on the roster now, it might have to come from the free agent market. That's not a place you want to be shopping at this point in the offseason, but sometimes necessity trumps idealism. Now, something that really stood out, and maybe even raised a few eyebrows, was the complete omission of Israel Mukumu from the report. That's strange. Mukumu has experience playing nickel, and he was re-signed to a team-friendly deal. You'd think he'd at least be in the conversation, right? But for Todd to not mention him at all, that's significant. Archer doesn't throw stuff out casually. If he left Izzy out, it could be because the team doesn't see him in that role anymore. Or maybe he's just on the outside looking in when it comes to the rotation. Either way, that's a flag. Not sure if it's red or beige, but it's definitely worth paying attention to. And then, of course, fans are throwing names out left and right. Guys like Asani Samuel Jr. are popular choices. Skilled corner, good pedigree, flashy talent, but again, primarily an outside guy. Same thing with Stephon Gilmore. If the Cowboys brought him back, it wouldn't be to play nickel. He's never done that. Now, in theory, signing a veteran like Gilmore could give you the flexibility to move Bland inside, but that's a domino move, not a direct fix. Then there's the name that might actually make the most sense, Mike Hilton. Now, we're going to go more in-depth on him in a future video, but I'll just say this. He's one of the best true nickel corners in the game. If Dallas is serious about solidifying this position and giving their secondary the kind of depth and versatility it needs, Hilton might be the guy. That's a proper stopgap solution with upside, not just a warm body to fill the slot. Other names like Kendall Fuller or Arthur Mallett have been thrown around. Fuller has played some nickel. Mallett too. But again, do those names really move the needle for a team trying to get over the playoff hump? Maybe for depth, sure. But if you're banking on either of them to lock down the middle of the field against elite slot receivers, you might be setting yourself up for disappointment. Now, flipping over to the offensive line, specifically that number 3 offensive tackle role, it's another spot that hasn't been finalized and could become a real problem if the wrong domino falls. As of now, the plan seems pretty clear. Tyler Smith at left tackle, Terrence Steele at right. That's the ideal setup. But what if things don't go to plan? What if one of those guys goes down? What's the backup plan? There seems to be more internal belief in Terrence Steele than maybe there should be. The Cowboys seem to think the new coaching staff and scheme will get him back on track, maybe even elevate his game. But let's be real, Steele struggled last season. And Tyler Smith, while talented, is still finding his footing as a full-time starter. There were moments last year where he looked rattled. The penalties alone, nearly 10 flags and less than 700 snaps, that has to get cleaned up. You simply cannot afford that kind of inconsistency on the edge, especially when you're trying to establish a new rhythm on offense with a revamped coaching staff. Behind them, Todd Archer listed 5 names in contention for the swing tackle role: Asim Richards, Chuma Edoga, Matt Waletzko, Sadiq Charles, and rookie Johnny Cornelius. That's a lot of bodies. And yet, none of them feel like a lock. Most of them don't even have guaranteed money left on their deals. This tells you the team is keeping its options open. Edoga and Charles have shown some guard versatility, which could help their case, especially when it comes to roster math. But none of these guys has solidified themselves as that next man up. And let's not even pretend all 5 will make the final roster. At most, 2 or 3 do, and that's if injuries don't hit. One name not even mentioned was Nathan Thomas, which might say more about his standing than anything else. If you're trying to read the tea leaves, the Cowboys' plan, at least in a worst-case scenario, might be to kick Tyler Smith. Consistency up front is everything. Offensive line play is all about chemistry. Coaches will tell you they dream of playing the same 5 guys all year long. No rotation, no injuries, just stability. So if you're forced to play musical chairs week after week, especially with your tackles, it usually ends in disaster. Last year, the lack of continuity up front showed, and it hurt the offense. This year, there's a lot riding on new position coaches like Clayton Adams and Connor Riley to turn things around. If they don't, we could be having this same conversation again next offseason, just with different names. Now let's switch sides and talk about the big boys in the middle of that defensive front. The nose tackles, or more accurately, the lack of one you can truly trust right now. The Cowboys did the right thing locking up Osa Odigizwa long-term. He's a cornerstone at the 3-tech spot, and the addition of Solomon Thomas should give them another capable interior pass rusher. But when it comes to stopping the run, when it's 3rd and short and you need to dig in, who's your guy? Right now, it's looking like Motzie Smith is going to get another crack at the role. And let's just be honest here. Year 1 didn't go as planned. There were flashes, but they were few and far between. Behind him, it's a collection of late-round picks and undrafted free agents: Denzel Daxon, Junior Fehoko, Justin Rogers, and Jay Tuffley. Todd Archer basically downplayed the concern, suggesting that the Cowboys aren't worried about having a true nose, that the front 7 as a unit will handle the job. He even cited that 2016 team with Terrell McClain as evidence that you don't need a dominant nose to stop the run. That sounds great in theory, but the reality is this. Ever since that 2016 season, stopping the run has been an issue for Dallas. It's been a recurring theme in big games. The moment you feel like this defense has turned a corner, they get gashed on the ground. So yes, technically you can get by without a 1-tech monster, but the track record says otherwise. You need at least one reliable run plugger in the middle. Archer did leave the door open for a possible late addition, much like the team did last year with Linval Joseph. He said it's possible they go down that road again if they don't like what they see in camp. That's probably the most realistic outcome. Wait and see how the group performs in July and early August, and if it's not up to par, go shopping. Not ideal, but better than doing nothing. Now, whether or not that addition is Linval again or someone like him doesn't really matter. The key takeaway is that the team recognizes the issue, even if they're not ready to panic yet. But if we get into mid-August and they're still waiting for someone to step up, that's when you know it's time to hit the emergency button. And that's the common theme across these three spots. They're all a little too fragile for comfort. Whether it's nickel corner, backup tackle, or interior D-line, the Cowboys are walking a tightrope. One injury, one bad stretch of play, and things could unravel fast. So the question isn't just whether they have enough. It's whether the pieces they do have are dependable when the pressure's on. Because ready or not, the season's coming. And those weak spots, they won't stay hidden for long. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a development that's sending shockwaves through the NFL community, quarterback Trey Lance has finally broken his silence regarding his controversial stint with the Dallas Cowboys, and he did not hold back. After months of speculation and whispered rumors surrounding his lack of playing time and sudden fall from grace, Lance has come forward with scathing remarks that shine a new light on the internal dynamics of the Cowboys locker room. The former third overall pick, who was traded from the San Francisco 49ers to Dallas in 2023, expressed deep frustration over what he described as a lack of transparency, support, and opportunity within the organization. "I felt like I was never really given a chance," Lance said in a recent interview. "From the moment I arrived, it was clear that the decision-makers had already made up their minds about me." While Lance maintained a professional demeanor during his time in Dallas, insiders now say he was deeply unhappy with how things unfolded. Despite being considered a promising talent with raw potential, Lance never took a regular season snap for the Cowboys. The team, firmly committed to Dak Prescott, left little room for the young quarterback to prove himself, something Lance now calls a wasted year. His comments didn't stop there. Lance also questioned the team's leadership and strategic vision. "You can't expect to grow as a player when the system doesn't invest in your development," he said. "It felt more like I was there to fill a spot than to actually contribute." He suggested that the culture in Dallas favors veteran status over merit and adaptability, a perspective that could ignite further debate about the Cowboys' approach to young talent. These bold statements mark a dramatic shift in the public perception of Lance, who until now had been relatively quiet and reserved. Whether this signals a new chapter for him elsewhere remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Trey Lance's words have stirred the pot, and the fallout in Dallas could be just beginning. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.